duties as well as political activities. So we allow him to leave, but we can just proceed with our program. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay, so we welcome Professor Karla van Leeuwen from KU Leuven, and she's going to give us a presentation on Parents Matter, partnership between family and school to make learning and education meaningful. So in case there are some people that were not here when she was being introduced, I'll give a little bit of an autobio on her. So the professor is a professor of psychology, parenting and special education research unit at KU Leuven in Belgium. Professor Karla's research focuses on the role of family relations, especially parenting and co-parenting in child, adolescent development and education. So we listen to her presentation.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Before I begin, I first want to thank the Open University of Tanzania for inviting me, and thank you for this wonderful organization. I always feel very welcome here in Tanzania. So thank you for that. It's also a very nice venue, and as the Chancellor said this morning, hopefully this is a start of a very good and interesting tradition of having these conferences more than once. International conference is very important to share ideas about education. I also want to thank you. I was a little bit overwhelmed this morning by the fact that you honored me to be a scholar of Open University. I'm very thankful for that, and I also want to say that this is really the result of a very nice cooperation for about 10 years already. We have had 3 projects now, and Dr. Janet Kigobe, I was supervisor of her PhD. We have a very nice collaboration, and I hope that we can do that in the future too. So thank you also for that. Okay, and now my lecture, the topic is very different from the previous speaker. In this lecture, I really want to emphasize the importance of parents in their children's learning. And although I will use mostly the term parents, I want to acknowledge that also other people can be very important co-educators of their child's learning. For example, grandparents, aunts, even a neighbor, or even siblings. So sometimes parents are not there for their children due to certain circumstances. So I acknowledge that also other people can be very important educators. But yes, just for ease of talking, I will use the term parents. So I will discuss the role of parents from 2 different angles. First, I will reflect on general parenting and how it is related to children's education. And second, I want to focus on the role of parental involvement, specific parental involvement in schools and at home in children's learning. And then I will end with some policy and educational implications. I also want to state in the beginning that I'm not here because I think that we in Belgium do everything better as regards to education. We also have our problems in education, so it's very good to be here and also to learn from you. And it's not only me that is saying some things. We also have to learn from you. Okay, so first, the role of general parenting. I will always start with defining some concepts before I go into research results, because I have made an overview of empirical research on this topic, to build my my argument that parenting is important. So first, parenting in general. As you know, parenting is a very broad concept, but we can say that it has at least very important functions, two functions. And first one is providing support and care to your child, make your child feeling loved. And the second is to socialize a child, meaning that parents provide guidance to adapt to the norms and values of a given culture or society. And parents can accomplish this through what we call, I forgot to switch, what we call in the parenting literature control. And control consists of several aspects. You have on the one hand behavior control, and on the other hand psychological control. Behavior control can be divided or distinguished in two subforms. You have the proactive behavior control, and that means that parents will set rules with their child. They can discuss certain arrangements. They will also supervise their child, and they show this behavior to prevent unwanted behavior of their children. On the other hand, you have reactive behavior control, and that's when parents react to unwanted behavior of their child. So this can be done by giving a punishment. Sometimes parents also use physical punishment, but it's after a child has done something wrong or has been disobedient. There is also a form of control, what we name psychological control, and that is intrusive parental behavior that manipulate a child's thoughts and feelings, for example, by guilt induction, by verbal hostility, or by being cold and not showing love to your child. And as you can hear, it's not a very good thing to do, but yeah, it's something that is always sometimes done by parents. So these are very broad parenting dimensions. They are constructs capturing similar parenting practices. We have done a lot of research on this, and we call that also the variable-centered approach. On the other hand, we have the person-centered approach, and then we have a distinction between different parenting styles. They are broader concepts, and well known are the authoritative parenting, where parents show a lot of support and moderate levels of control, so they communicate with their children about rules and expectations. You have the authoritarian parents, where the support is rather low, but the control is rather high. So these parents impose a lot of rules to their children, but in combination with less warmth and less love. You have the permissive or the indulgent parents. They are very supportive, but they are not setting rules, so the control is rather low. And then you also have uninvolved or neglecting parents, showing very low support and also very low control. Keep that in mind when we discuss the research results. I know that I will present some results that are from studies mostly in the Western countries, but I have tried also to include some studies in African samples. And I will mostly present meta-analysis. Meta-analysis are very useful methodological approaches to summarize in a quantitative way results of individual studies. So to present an overall effect from the variables that we study. So the first meta-analysis that I want to show you, they are from Pinkert, and he did a meta-analysis on the associations between problem behavior of children and adolescents and general parenting. And first he looked at all the research that has been done on internalizing behavior. So he summarized the findings of more than 1,000 studies that have been done. And internalizing behavior refers to anxiety, depression, withdrawn behavior, and somatic symptoms that cannot be explained physically. And he found that negative concurrent and longitudinal associations exist between parental warmth, behavior control, autonomy support, and authoritative parenting. So the more warmth and positive parenting there is, the less internalizing problem behaviors there are. There is more internalizing behavior when parents use a lot of harsh control and a lot of harsh physical control, when they use a lot of psychological control, and when their parenting style is rather authoritarian or neglectful. And in fact, the same pattern can be seen for the externalizing behavior. Externalizing behavior refers to aggressive behaviors and rule-breaking behaviors. I need to say that in the meta-analysis, the associations are rather small, so that indicates that problem behavior in children is determined by multiple factors, not only the parenting. There are also child characteristics that can lead to problems. For example, genetics, we have done studies on that, but also the temperament of the child or other environmental factors. For example, children who experience trauma can have more problems. Also, some associations over time seem to be bidirectional, which implies that there is also a child factor which can lead to certain parental behaviors. If you have very aggressive children, it is difficult not to react yourself with aggressive behavior and, for example, to slap your child or to use physical punishment. So there is a bidirectional association. Then Pinkert has also done an interesting meta-analysis looking at the general parenting dimensions and styles related to academic achievement. And there he found more than 300 studies suitable to include in a meta-analysis. And we see, in fact, the same pattern. More warmth, more autonomy granting, authoritative parenting style is associated with better academic performance, both concurrently in time and also longitudinally. On the other hand, the use of parental harsh control, also especially the use of psychological control, and also neglectful, authoritarian, and permissive parenting styles, they are related to lower achievements. And why is psychological control so important in this? Because psychological control increases the stress in a child, and a child will mostly learn because there is some kind of pressure of an adult or from a parent. So they study for the adult's approval to avoid negative comments when they are not doing well, but not because they are intrinsically motivated. And that's the explanation for this. Again, it should be said that the associations between general parenting and academic achievement are rather small, so that indicates that other things can also contribute to academic achievement, and that the effects of the general parenting seems to be smaller than behavior of parents that is specifically focused on behaviors related to school. Another interesting meta-analysis looks at the risk factors for school absenteeism and dropout. And here the authors included 75 studies They reported on a lot of potential risk factors for school absenteeism, and that is defined as a temporary periods of unexcused school absence. And you see in the two columns the possible risks for these two dependent variables. A lot of them are child factors, like problems that children can have, for example, antisocial behaviors or risky behaviors. Also, factors that are related to the school, like negative school attitudes, or a negative climate, or very large classes in schools. But I have put the parenting variables in red. So parenting problems refer to low support or low acceptance, and very low parental control. Also very low parent-school involvement. These are very important risk factors for absenteeism and school dropout. Also factors related to the family, for example, the family structures, being a single parent or families where there is child abuse, they can also be a problem for these variables. And then one study looked at the support from mothers and fathers in very different socioeconomic groups. It's a study that has been done in the United States, a longitudinal study with racially and ethnically diverse people, families. And the support by mother and father was measured, for example, by items stating, my mother tells me how well I do on a task, or my mother helps me to make decisions or gives me good advice. And that created then a support factor. What are the results? Well, we see that in early adolescence, many adolescents showed decreasing grades and school attendance, but support from both mother and fathers was associated with higher grade point average, regardless of the financial hardship. And that is very important. It seems that the support by parents can be a protective factor for families that doesn't have a good financial means to support their children, but being supportive to your child in your general parenting really can help. And especially having supportive mothers was protective in promoting greater attendance for youth with more limited financial resources. So it means that school attendance and academic achievements can be determined by multiple factors, but general support is also one of the factors that is protective in this. Okay, now I switch to the role of parental involvement in their child's learning, and I will again start by defining this concept. Parental involvement is defined as parents' investment of resources into children's education. And we can see three factors. These expectations should be realistic. Not everybody can go to Harvard University, but you look at what your child can do, and you support your child in this. A second is then the school involvement. So this means all the school activities where a parent can be involved. It's, for example, communicate with the teacher about what your child can, what maybe problems are, attending conferences at school, parent-teacher conferences, attending also activities that are organized at school. And then you have also the home involvement, where parents can be involved in their children's learning really at home, for example, by helping them with homework, by reading together with their child. Now, in the last 15 years, the traditional definition of parental involvement has been criticized because the emphasis was, according to some authors, too much on what the school can do and not that much on what parents can do. So we see a kind of shift from parental engagement to more, from parental involvement, where the agency is largely in teachers and in the schools, to more the parental engagement, where parents are really in charge and take own initiatives to be involved in the schooling of their child. Okay, and now I will summarize some research results. This is a very, very interesting and also very recent study by Kim. And this study summarizes meta-analysis. So it is a meta-analysis of meta-analysis. So I think it's a very important study. You can see it includes, in fact, more than 1,000 primary studies, and they focus on two kinds of studies. First, they look at correlations between achievement and naturally occurring involvement of parents. And on the other hand, they also look at intervention studies, where you look at the effects of an intervention that want to involve parents more. Student achievement was, in this study, measured by school grades, test scores, cognitive and literacy skills, like measures of reading, math, and letter recognition. And when we look at the results, there is definitely the positive association between parental involvement and achievements. Overall effect over all these studies, we clearly see the positive association between parental involvement and achievement. The strongest effects were found for parent expectations. So we need to take that into account. What parents communicate with their child about education plays an important role. On the other hand, that is maybe unexpected for you, but there were mixed results for being involved in homework with the child. Why is that the case? I think there are two explanations. First, it could be that parents help their children with homework when the children already have problems with homework, because a child is struggling with learning to read or doing that. Another explanation, I found it in another meta-analysis on being involved in math homework. There are two ways to be involved in homework. You can do it in a very responsive, supportive way, where you support the autonomy of the child, where you show interest in your child. On the other hand, there is also a very intrusive way of being involved in homework of your child. And it is a bit comparable with the concept of psychological control. You put a lot of pressure on the child. Do your homework. You have to do this to succeed in life. So when you put a lot of pressure, a child is going to work to meet the needs of the parents, but not because the child wants to accomplish something he or herself. So that could be the explanation. Of course, when we look at the effect sizes, there are not always that big, and it also shows that other factors, of course, can play a role. It is also important that what is happening naturally in the home context of a child and a parent, that it has very important or similar effects to the intervention studies. So what parents already do is very important. They could be supported in that. Now I have a study which was done in African countries, and you can see they are all there, the countries that were included. Here, data are used from UNICEF research. It's a very large sample of children. It's a study done in preschool age children. They were below 5 years of age. And what do the results show? Well, we see that there are rather low levels of engagement in most of the countries. And we also see that paternal engagement is lower than maternal engagement. Mothers are more engaged in their children's learning than fathers. But when we look at the associations between different variables, we can see that, for example, reading books together with your child, storytelling, or naming or counting objects, they all have positive associations with the literacy skills of preschool children. So the associations are there, and they are there for both mothers and fathers. So both parents are important, and we could support them to do this more. And this is also good news. This is a meta-analysis on the effects of teacher training on teachers' family engagement. This meta-analysis included 39 studies, and about 2/3 included pre-service teachers and about 1/3 active teachers. The majority of studies involved elementary or early childhood teachers, and what did we find? There were positive effects of training. When trained in family engagement, teachers often feel more comfortable and more confident about working with families, and they improve the ways in which they can interact, communicate with families. Ingredients that have the largest impact on teacher-family engagement outcomes are collaborative planning, problem solving, communication strategies, also cultural awareness. So working with diverse populations is important to take into mind. Family engagements, and also their attitudes and beliefs, and parent-teachers relationships. Now I'm coming to a project in Tanzania, something we did together with people from the Open University of Tanzania. We had a project on enhancing equal opportunities through the participation of families and schools in basic skill formation. The background of the project was that despite the investment in education of the government, there are still some problems, namely that parents and teachers, they are two different worlds. There is not much communication, while that is in fact very important. We just saw that. So what we did is we developed a parent-teacher intervention, and we used the results from the literature. We also used theoretical models, and the theoretical framework was that of Hoover Dempsey and Sandler regarding the parental involvement process. And this is a model. It's a bit complex. It's related to three major questions. The first one is, why do and don't families become involved in educational activities? The second question is, what do families do when they are involved in educational activities? And a third question is, how does family involvement in children's education make a positive difference in student outcomes? And you see, level 1 is related to the thoughts of parents about education, also their resources. Do they have time? Do they have energy to be involved in their children's education? Then you also have the learning mechanisms that they can use. during involvement activities, for example, encouragement, modeling, reinforcement, instruction. And then, something is happening in the students, and this can lead to better motivation to learn. And in the end, you cannot see it, but level 5 is student achievement. So when they are more interested in education, they will all have more academic achievements. And we have evaluated this intervention. But first, we also have looked at the motivational factors in parents. So we questioned about 580 parents of grade 2 children. This project was conducted in Dar es Salaam, so in an urban context, not in a rural context. And we could conclude that parents really seem to be interested and willing to be involved in their child's education, regardless of their own literacy levels. So even parents that cannot read well themselves, they are interested to be involved. But before they get involved, there is something needed. For example, they have to believe in their own capacity to be able to help their children in their learning. So that's the parents' self-efficacy. That should be high enough. If parents believe in themselves, they also will be more involved. Also, invitations from the child. When a child invites a parent to read together, to do storytelling, that will increase parental involvement. Also, their perceived time and energy. If you have parents working all day and they are very late at home and they are tired, they will be less involved. And the last factor was parents' expectations for children's school success. So what do they think that a child can achieve? On the other hand, being involved in activities at school, that is related to invitations not only from the child, but also from the school. So if teachers or school directors invite parents to come to the school, parents will be more eager to come to school. We also looked at our intervention to promote child literacy. For this, we used cluster randomized controlled trials. So we worked with an intervention group and a control group. We also had pre, post, and follow-up measurements. And I will show you the ingredients of the intervention that was given to parents and teachers. We had sessions together with teachers and parents, modules for teachers on how to involve parents, how to use student diaries, teachers visiting homes of children, reading books at home. So we provided children with books to take to their homes so they could read it together with their parents, parental involvement in homework, a reading day competition, a parents' school week, teacher-parents conferences were introduced, and there were also guidelines for parents how to involve parents in the home. Here's some results. We were very happy with the intervention leading to improvement of children's reading. Compared to the children in the control group, children in the intervention condition made significantly more progress in decoding skills, reading fluency and comprehension from the pre to the post intervention time, and also from pre-intervention to follow-up. The follow-up was about 8 to 9 months after the intervention. The effects were somewhat larger on the short term than on the long term, which implies that maybe we should follow up and keep parents coming to the schools, maybe introduce some booster sessions that could help. And our conclusions were that we have really a foot in the door intervention. at a young age where children really start to read, so we can do a lot, and involving parents there is very important. And a strength of the intervention is really that parents can choose themselves from a variety of activities. So we do not put pressure on them. We let them choose what is feasible for you. So we really took into account the context of the families and yeah, their time, the diversity of the families. And now I come to my policy and educational implications. I want to start with the level of the family, and I have a citation by Kim, who says that the general importance of beliefs and attitudes as reflected by larger effect sizes for parents' academic socialization suggests that researchers should consider how to design programs that systematically target such dimensions. So it means that the agency of the parents is very important. We should support parents in this. Parents are co-educators, and we must strengthen them in this, stimulate their self-efficacy. Regarding the level of the teacher and the school, yes, also I want to say that it is important to foster parental involvement at school, create opportunities for parents and families to be involved in educational activities, taking into account the specific family context. And a very nice model, a very practical model that encourages parental involvement and parental engagement is Jane's dual navigation approach. And you can see on the one hand the family-based components, and on the other hand the school-based components. So many of the components we have already discussed earlier. I just want to draw your attention to one of the components, that is that we also can draw from community resources. And this reminds me of the lecture this morning referring to vocational studies, that we can invite people from the community with different professions so that children and adolescents come in contact with different professions and they can learn from that. And often, many adults are also willing to talk about their profession. So that is also a very nice way to use these resources. The level of the community and the government. We have seen that there are positive results from the parent interventions. There is room for change, and I think that we should ask the government to implement interventions nationwide and evaluate their effectiveness. Also important is that teachers are aware of the importance of parents, and pre- and in-service training could include modules that focus on that. As a matter of fact, we also had a project at the Open University who developed these teacher pre- and in-service training modules, and we have also evaluated them with good results. We are currently writing a paper on that. So there are a lot of opportunities over there, and the good news is that it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. These are rather simple interventions that can be done easily, and you don't need a lot of money to do this. So I think often it is said we need money to do things, but here, in a very easy way, change is possible. So that is my take-home message. Although children's learning is determined by several individual and environmental factors, parents do play a role through their engagement at home and involvement at school, and to a lesser extent their general parenting, but it is still important also, the general parenting. Research shows that it is possible to support families in this effectively, and this can be done in various ways: by addressing parents themselves about their agency, by pointing out the importance of a partnership with parents to teachers and schools, and by offering a good training to pre-service teachers and also in-service teachers. And to end my lecture, we can see this as an important step towards increasing equal learning opportunities for every child. Thank you. Asante. Dank je wel.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that wonderful, Professor, sorry. Thank you so much, Prof, for that wonderful presentation on parents' matter and looking at the role that they play in the education of the children. So a lot of issues have come up, and she has categorically aligned the roles in which the parents can get incorporated into the children's education, and starting from the role of parenting and general well-being. So she talked about how parents get involved in the issues of control, the behavior of the children that we have, and those children that we take to school. So she talked about behavior control. She also talked about the psychological control, and then also issues of how sometimes children could be manipulated in terms of how you'd want them to be controlled. And the study is quite interesting because most of the times we have seen that in certain schools, sometimes the parents are not involved, and mostly you find that they only get involved in the matters that have to do with homework. But then it's not only homework that can be that we can get involved into the lives of the children, and mostly also because we also pay for the children. So you find that on that aspect, you seem to be involved, or parents seem to be involved, but there are so many ways in which the parents can get involved into the lives of their children by being there with them and also encouraging them, and also just doing the checks and balances on what goes on in their lives, also getting in touch with the school and getting to know, just to have that intimate relationship between the child and the parents. So we can also maybe listen to the we can get the, if there are any people that want to ask anything, the floor is open, please, you can ask. Okay, I've seen a hand there.
Thank you for a nice presentation. I have 3 issues. First of all, I would like to thank you for rising up Dr. Janet, who is now my supervisor for the PhD study, for the work done well in German. Parents matters when you want education to make sense for sustainable development. But parents, they are not homogeneous. They differ in culture, they differ in perspectives, economic status, and other areas, but the school curriculum is one. How can we ensure that all parents, they are guiding their children towards the school curriculum, so that at the end, all school at school will have the skills, knowledge guided by the parents, but which match with what is taught in school? What can we do to make it common? That's one. 2, the studies of parental involvement has based much on primary and secondary school, because those are still the kids. It is a request. Can we scale it up to the higher education? I saw the project of Dr. Janet. If we can scale up now from those lower levels to the higher learning institutions, that do we need parent involvement? Can they support their children to attain the employability skills which we are now crying for? A request if you can extend that project with the Open University and Janet and others from basic education to higher level. Yeah. The third I reserve it.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have Dr. Shavega, the Dean, Faculty of Education. I have now pronounced it correctly. Last time I said the Dean, Faculty of Education. No, Faculty of Arts. This is the Dean, Faculty of Education. Dr. Teresia Shavega, Senior Lecturer, who will soon be a professor.
Okay, Professor Karla, for a nice presentation, very inspiring. I'm concerned with the meta-analysis study which you did, very interesting, but I was curious to know that if you did that study that it covered large area, did you consider differentiating parenting in collectivistic society and individualistic society? How do they differ? Yeah, thank you.
That's a very good question, and I don't have a clear answer, I'm afraid, because the studies that were in the meta-analysis were often done in the same culture. So often it's a meta-analysis on studies in Western culture, and often they are rather individualistic, not, so not collectivistic. Yeah, it could be, it could make a difference.
Because you are a specialist on that area, I think maybe you can tell us something you did that study, such a study in European countries, which are really individualistic, and you did studies in Africa, which are collectivist. I think you can say something. How do they differ? And what are the good way forward for parenting that we can take as a take-home exercise?
Well, first, I think more research could be done in, for example, in Africa on general parenting. I think you can also say that, Janet, that we don't have that many studies on parenting, so it would be very interesting to look more closely what is really happening here in parenting. And in a collectivistic culture, I think the community is more responsible for upbringing the child, not only the parents, which is seen in our countries, in Europe, for example, leading to the fact that a lot of parents in Europe experience stress in parenting because they don't have the social support of the community. They lack that. They are not able to talk, to communicate about their problems of parenting, and that could be really an advantage here, that maybe, yeah, as a community you do more together, and you can organize better groups to talk about this. I have seen this also in the project that we have done so far. That is not my merit, but I can see Janet and her team really can easily bring people together on a topic. And I think you should take advantage of that. So bringing people together from the community to discuss things like this, discuss like, how parents can be involved in parenting. So I think that is really, an advantage here that you could use.
Right, thank you. We also have, maybe we can respond to the earlier observation. Is it a question, the earlier one, the gentleman that side? Do you still remember the question or what he said? The first one.
Oh, the first one, it was about higher education. Yes, but I don't have really figures on that or studies. I'm sorry, I didn't look into that.
he was just requesting if you can scale up your studies, as currently you are working on the basic education. Can you now extend it to higher education, that you can extend the project to cover the higher education as well? That was actually the request.
Okay, so yeah, we have a project now, well, it's finished in higher education, the training of teachers, where we have that module on involving parents in school. And yeah, so that is a module that we have implemented and evaluated, and with good results. So that is kind of scaling up our project that we have done in elementary school.
Thank you. Do we have any other? Yes, please.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, but even parents that cannot read can show their interest in their child and be supportive. We have seen that also in our project. We had families with different socioeconomic status, and even parents who are not reading very well themselves, they can be involved and they can support their child and show that education is important. So you don't have to be the most educated parent to show your support in your child. That is really a take-home message too. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah.
Okay. My question is, you have been carrying out some studies. It is at the level of primary. But the belief in the society is that teachers have got the pedagogical skills.
Yes.
So when it comes to parenting, it becomes difficult. I happen to be lucky to have at least 8 grandchildren. The problem now comes, she has an assignment, and she very much believes in her teacher.
Yes.
When you come say no, this is this, or you'll have a lot of quarrels.
Yeah.
Now, what are the challenges when you are carrying these studies, as far as the two competing, the parent support, but the child knows that well, the teacher knows more than anyone in the world. So, what are the challenges probably on this? Because I want to assist, but the child believes something, and the teachers are very wrong. I mean, I've been a teacher trainer, so I know that some things are not going that much. They are not that much conversant. They are sometimes wrong, but now, what were the challenges?
Yeah. I see the dilemma. You want to support your child, but the teacher has certain methods to explain something, and that is not always how you as a parent want to explain things. Is it about that? That is sometimes conflicting, what a parent wants to do with a child, for example, in helping with homework, but the teacher has a different method of learning something. That's a good one. I think as a parent, in a way, you have to follow what the teacher says, but you can be supportive in many ways, not only by using a method to explain things, but just be encouraging and showing your belief in what your child can do. That is also very important. So it's not always about yeah, being a teacher yourself, but more then it's more the general parenting, I guess, that pops up. I wanted to say something else too, but I lost it. Yeah, maybe later. Maybe we can discuss it later. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Karla, for that thought-provoking talk. It's very exciting, actually, studying. I wonder if in your research, you have encountered two different parents. One is very protective, and another one is very abusive. The protective one will tend to actually do the assignment for the kid, so that she passes or he passes and get all those A's with the expectation that he or she will go up. The abusive one will have negative impact on the child, whereby they learn really, really bad things from the parents. I wonder if that dynamic has occurred in your research. Thanks.
Yes, it's what we see in the research. Being overprotective is being very controlling, and that is, yeah, in a way very intrusive. So a child is not learning because he or she is interested in learning him or herself, but because the parents want a child to accomplish something. So it's not a very good way to be very overprotective. And the other way, yeah, it's being neglectful, showing no interest in your child, not supporting, not showing any control. Yeah. Then you leave everything to the child. It's shown in research that it is also not a good way for children to achieve something academically. Yeah, true.
Okay, thank you very much. My name's Ambwene Kingeja, a PhD candidate from the Open University of Tanzania. Yeah, first of all, I want to acknowledge the presence of my supervisors also here, Dr. Shavega and Kigobe. Thank you so much. I also want to appreciate the good presentation. Yes, I have just an input on what you have presented concerning what we call the Generation Z. You know, we are in the Generation Z. The technology is going very fast, and most of us who are intellectuals are becoming so busy, and it becomes a big challenge in the area of parenting.
Yes.
I just want to raise my concern if we can share this idea to our higher institution on how to integrate these parenting issues and academic issues in order to balance. Because where we are going, most of the people send children to the boarding school, or they live at home with the house girls and house boys. So parenting becomes a challenge in the area of academics. Now, how are we going to integrate this academics or busy world and the area of parenting? Thank you.
Oh, that's not an easy question, because yeah, a lot of ideas come up. Yeah, first, I think, yeah, sometimes the children and adolescents of today are more literate in using everything that is related to, yeah, information technology. Yeah, they know very well how everything works. So here you could have something like, co-education, that even parents learn from their children how to use certain things, like using the cell phone and other things, using certain apps. So I really believe in the concept of co-learning, that even parents can learn from their children. It's not a bad thing that as a parent you don't know everything. You can learn from your children. That is one thought that I have. Another thought that I have is I recently finished together, well, my PhD student from China finished his PhD, and that was on parenting from a distance. Parents who are migrating from rural areas to the city, they leave their children behind, and they parent from a distance through mobile phone use. And of course, children miss some things, like the physical contact with their parents. But on the other hand, we also see that it can be very positive to stay involved in their child's development, and also academic things. So we should not see everything from the negative side. That is what I wanted to say. But I agree, it's really a challenge, a huge challenge. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Karla.
You're welcome.
It seems that your topic is very interesting.
Yes.
And majority of people here are still having questions, but we are lagging behind.
Yeah.
Maybe moderator, can we have maybe 2 or 3 and then we close? Is yours now.
Okay, look at the interest of time, we only have 2 so that we can close.
But we can close, and I'm happy to address any questions later on when we see each other. That's maybe better. You can go into,
All right.
I also wanted to say that I have all the references of the studies that I used. So if people are interested in this, I am happy also to share the papers. These are all the studies that I used for this presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor. Indeed, this has been an insightful presentation, and many times, because we are living in the busy world, we tend to be too busy to attend to our grannies and the children. But of course, from this presentation, going forward, all of us have to be physically present as well as psychologically present when it comes to parenting. So thank you so much. We're going to give 5 big claps to the professor for this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Director of Programs.